Okay, so tell me a little bit about what Therafriends Community Partnership is and how y'all got started.
Okay, so I feel like the best way to kind of explain ourselves a little bit is to read our mission because we really worked on our mission a bunch to try to include everything because I don't want to just say stuff and then forget something because there are a lot of components to what we're trying to do. So our mission is that Therafriends is a nonprofit, community-based pediatric therapy practice in North Carolina. Our mission is to build a diverse, accessible, neurodiversity affirming, and inclusive pediatric therapy community. We collaborate with community partners to remove financial and logistical barriers for families and provide direct quality pediatric therapy services such as occupational, physical, and speech therapies. Therafriends also offers programming, resources, and inclusivity training to individuals, students, professionals, families, and organizations to foster diversity and equity in our community. So as you can tell, there's a lot of components. I am an occupational therapist. Tisha is a speech therapist. And how we came together, Tisha has 3 kids. Her youngest goes to the same elementary school that my 2 kids go to. And over the pandemic, we met online like so. And we were trying to form a diversity, equity, inclusion committee to our PTA and met up that way. So we were both interested in DEI initiatives for our school and learned that we were both therapists, that we both have worked with kids. Tisha was a practice owner. I'm a current practice owner. So we kind of started discussing the pitfalls of being a practice owner and what we didn't like about it and what we wished we could change about it. And one of the big things was accessibility in terms of, logistical and also basically financial was the big starting point for us. Because we would see a lot of families kind of drop off or ask for reduced services because of cost. And, that's not best for the family and child. So it was very difficult to see that, and it still is, because that's obviously still a problem with the way our healthcare system is run. So we were kind of brainstorming, what can we do to alleviate some of this? And forming a nonprofit was the best idea we could come up with. I remember us saying, we don't mind taking corporate money to help families and children. That doesn't bother us, but actually, having families pay for it and have financial difficulties because of it was not something we were comfortable with. So that was one of our solutions. So that's why we came up with it. So Tisha, did I forget anything? Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think you covered it all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I know you kind of mentioned this in like your little mission, but like what kind of services do you provide?
So we launched last year in 2022. We started an inclusive outdoor therapeutic program. So we have non-disabled children and disabled children who come, and we meet up at a state park locally, and we explore nature and just have a lot of fun with creativity and collaborating and connecting with each other, connecting with nature. And we also can support some skill building along the way. We can work on motor skills and communication kind of indirectly while we're having fun and connecting with nature, because we know by research that being outside is very therapeutic in and of itself. So we want to make sure more children have the access to do so in programs where we can get together and it's free of charge. We hope to, in the next few months, start offering one-to-one speech therapy and occupational therapy services. We eventually will add physical therapy and possibly developmental therapy as well. We will always go to our clients because we don't want transportation or scheduling to be a barrier for families. So we will travel to our clients and provide therapy where is most convenient for them. The nice thing is, because we are not relying on insurance and not using insurance, is we get to work together and collaborate with clients and their families, and as clinicians, to form goals that are meaningful and impactful for the families. And we determine as a team when to discontinue services. Whereas if you are billing insurance, they determine a lot of times that services are no longer warranted or needed. And we get to choose goals and therapy practices that are affirming and that really support the child or their families to thrive without having to report to an insurance, and prove what we're doing to them. So that's kind of a nice benefit of not dealing with insurance companies, that we'll be able to do that other practices can't do if they rely on insurance. And we also plan to provide more community programs like our inclusive outdoor program, but also support groups for parents, or maybe accessible art classes and dance classes. And we have seen in our own practice that some of the families we work with, their children don't participate in dance or art or gymnastics or things because they're physical or logistical barriers that prevent them from being included. And we want to make sure all of the children in our area have the same opportunities. We also will provide trainings to graduate students and to universities, other professionals, about inclusivity and affirming therapy practices. Did I forget anything, Stephanie?
I don't think so. I mean, we have a laundry list of things that we want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like once we start accomplishing those, more things will pop up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like any particular stakeholders that you partner with in your efforts?
Yeah, so you notice our name is Therafriends Community Partnership. So the reason for that is because we want it to be a community, and we want it to be something that everybody is involved in, feels like they're taking part in. So local businesses or local organizations or just individuals, we want to feel like they're a part of what we're trying to do. For right now, we have partnered with several organizations in our area, and I can list them so you can, here you already know about All Neurotypes, probably through Jenna. So they provide training for board members, employees, community members, and volunteers on neurodiversity affirming and inclusion practices. So they are awesome for us to partner with, because that is obviously one of the things we want to accomplish as well. So they're helping us figure those things out. We have partnered with B3 Coffee. They're a local nonprofit here, and they provide employment opportunities and classes for people with all abilities. And they partner with us for community events like continuing education presentations and programs for disabled individuals and their families. We have partnered with Low Vision Rehab Solutions. They provide support and resources for development, and could be a referral source for us for cortical visual impairment. That's something that I have kind of specialized in, learned a lot about, because I had a client with cortical visual impairment and saw that there is a severe lack of resources for families and children everywhere, honestly, but definitely in this immediate area as well. And that's something that we're going to want to be able to provide eventually in the future. Partnering with YMCA of the Triangle. So they have offered use of their space for things like services, programs, maybe to receive staff trainings from Therafriends on things like anti-ableism and inclusion practices, whether it's in the community or within their own YMCA facility. And also provide us connections within the community, because they're very, obviously, the YMCA is very well connected in all their communities that they're in. We actually do have a program coming up next weekend that's a roundtable discussion at our local YMCA in Apex, North Carolina, where we're going to have caregivers come and tell us what they wish their family had access to in the community and what they feel the barriers are. And we're going to take all this information, bring it to the board of the YMCA to see what we can do, partner with them to alleviate that issue, be more inclusive within their YMCA, or create programs through Therafriends where we can have families and children be involved in different programming that they would prefer or don't feel like and feel like that is lacking in our community at the moment. We have partnered with That's the Mom in Me. She offers parenting support and helps with parenting neurodivergent children, resources, and provides parent education. So we had a webinar and she was talking about just different things for caregiver education, basically, on differing issues that parents and caregivers feel they have pretty average issues. And we've also worked with the Autism Support Advocacy Center. So they provide support and resources for autistic children, their families, and we partnered in their advocacy efforts. So we have those specifics. Obviously, we want that list to grow, and eventually have sponsorship and scholarship programs that we would like to begin, so we can have financial support for our children and families to receive services. So we're hoping that local businesses will eventually start to partner with us in that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did I miss any, Tisha? I feel like I'm going to say that after each time I answer.
I know.
I always have to check in with my other half.
No, you didn't forget anything. I was just, when you were reading the list, it just was reminding me about the we had a fall neurodiversity affirming event in the fall with Autism Support and Advocacy Center, B3, and all neurotypes, and we all collaborated together to have this event where friends and family could come, and then the community could come, and we had fun activities and some also education that was available. And it was just a nice way to see 4 different organizations coming together to create events. I don't think we see that as often in our area, where people kind of follow their own mission and do their own work, but we really, really aim to be collaborative with others. So that was fun. I hope we can do that again in this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what impact does your organization have on the disability community and like the greater community as a whole? Does anyone want to take a stab at it? Try to answer that?
I think the greatest impact that we will have in this community is removing financial and logistical barriers so that all families have access to these services. Right now, we're seeing so many families who can't afford services, or their children don't qualify for school services. And so they're in this wait, or they're on these really long wait lists. And there's just really not many, and more practices are starting not to accept insurance and just being private pay. So it's just becoming less and less accessible. So I think our greatest impact will be just removing those barriers for families. We also are an organization that is really committed to fostering and embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility within our community. And I don't see that as often in our area in therapy practices. And we hope to be a model for that and spread that and encourage other therapists to do that as well. We're just explicitly committed to trying to be neurodiversity and LGBTQ affirming, anti-bias, anti-racist, and an anti-ableist community. And we really work hard to support advancing equity and justice. And I think that is something that's unique about our practice. And I think in turn will be provide a safe, welcoming, inclusive space for everyone will be our greatest impact as well.
Yeah.
Stephanie, have anything to add?
Well, anything to add?
No, that was great. Exactly. We just want everyone to feel like they have a place and they feel included and heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. So my last question here is, how do you go about, addressing, some of the stigma of disability from your perspective as an organization? Because I could tell that it's happening. It's a real thing. So I'm wondering, how do you guys sort of tackle that and create an inclusive and welcoming environment for people with disabilities?
Right. So I guess first Tisha and I, as founders of Therafriends, we identify our limitations as clinicians, and we know that it's best practice to listen to others who have their lived experience that is real and true to them, and we want to honor what they have to say and what they need from us, and we want to help facilitate what they want out of their life. So we're not as like, we feel like a lot of times clinicians will come in onto the scene and just be like, I know what's best for you, when you really shouldn't be that way. You should be listening and learning from somebody and from what they want out of, you know, their life, what they want, what is important to them, and we're supposed to help foster that, and not essentially speak over them and tell them that we know better, because we don't, and we know we don't. So that's number one. So we want to make sure that everybody is listened to. Also providing the trainings like we were discussing. So things like all our staff, we're very committed to this, and we're in the process of creating these trainings with the help of people in the disability community, because we are not the ones that are going to be, you know, coming up with the content, because it's not our life, our lived experience, right? We want it from people with the lived experience. So our staff, so anybody that works with us, any therapists that work with us, we want to have trained, and the trainings would be, you know, like neurodiversity affirming, LGBTQ affirming, anti-racist, anti-bias, anti-ableist, all those things. We want to make sure, because that is the core of who we are. So, you know, we feel the stigma of disability should move away from othering disabled people and should be refocused on addressing the lack of accessibility in systems in the community. So that's what we're working towards. So with those trainings as well, then we'll move that to, you know, community members, to students, so the new generation of therapists, to make sure that this is something that's being carried on and becoming the norm. And then, you know, families, caregivers, so that we have like kind of a greater community understanding of what we're trying to do. And very important to us too, when we were choosing our board members, we wanted to make sure it was very representative of the people that we're trying to work and help with, you know, like, so we want to hear from people, like we said, with their lived experience, because that's not ours. We have clinical experience, but that's not the be all end all. We need to help facilitate other people's lives, not our own. So we want to make sure our board is very representative of all different walks of life, different disabilities, you know, different experiences, so that everyone can be heard, everyone has kind of a seat at the table, so that we're guiding our organization the best that we can. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just, that was all, yeah, exactly. Spot on. I would just add that I think that we've had to really spend some time, you know, like Stephanie said, identifying our limitations and also identifying our own ableism and what was taught to us too in our graduate programs and our undergraduate programs on how clinicians should conduct therapy. And really, we've had to shift our own lens a lot and do a lot of introspection and make sure that we are recognizing that you know, we are part of the problem too, and again, we just need to listen to people and follow the leads and amplify people who've already been doing this work and learn from them, and make sure that when anyone tells us who they are, that we believe them and we don't question them. Oh, it's not that bad, or, you know, well, maybe you should do this, instead of putting the onus on a disabled person, putting the onus on our community and our society and making accessibility and making places more accessible and safe and welcoming for everyone. I think when that shift happens, I hope the stigma will shift then too.
Yeah, our core belief is that the disability does not lie within the person, it's the society and the surrounding community that is the barrier.
Yeah, yeah, that I think is really important.
Mhm.